Yo, this is Khem Na'khi, and I love sex. Well, as I was in the process of, regrouping everything with I love sex and, wanting to get clear on what I wanted to focus on, um, because at the time, before Black Excellence came into play, I was messing around with playing with the idea of speaking about like philosophy ideas, people that were thought leaders regarding like beliefs, disrupting our beliefs and things of that nature. So I was moving in that direction, but then it was like I need something more personal. I need something that was more, that resonated more with me. So, weeks of like, okay, what can I talk about? Not just something simple like, like, oh, I want to talk about relationships or an aspect of relationships. I needed the big picture, you know what I'm saying? So, Black excellence came to mind, and I didn't want to talk about, I already knew I didn't want to talk about like racism or, the police brutality that's going on. I didn't want to be a part of that movement, because you got a lot of people talking about that. So I needed something that went in the opposite direction that would represent us, So Black excellence came into play. So that's when I started to dig deeper with like, okay, what is Black excellence? What am I going to talk about regarding, Black excellence? Like, what does that look like? So I had to really sit with myself, because when I first came up with the concept, this was like the beginning of this year, and when I started the radio show at Fishbowl Radio Network, I was running with the Black excellence, but it wasn't clear. I wasn't clear as to what Black excellence was. So it was a hit or miss. I was talking about certain things that represented it, but at certain times when I was putting the show together, because I was doing a show every week, I would just grab something like, okay, this is not really what I want, but I'll grab something. So I had to really sit down and think like, okay, what is Black excellence? And I say that to say, that's something that we all should do, as people, whether it be, with whatever it is that you're doing. You got to get super clear with what you're wanting to do and define it in regards to knowing what you're talking about and defining it to the degree that you know what you're talking about. Opposed to like, oh, okay, I want to talk about this. Okay, it sounds good, but I really don't know the depths of it, right? So sitting down with Black excellence, I was like, okay, what represents Black excellence to me? So just sitting and thinking, it's like, okay, and this is the brainstorming process. Like, I'll just throw stuff out there, write it down. Of course, I write it down. It's like, okay, hip hop, represents Black excellence, as a culture. I'm looking at like the conscious community, brothers like, Dr. Umar Johnson or, Tariq Nasheed or, Red Pill, Blue Pill, Dr. Phil Valentine, Delbert Blair, that represents Black excellence to me. So I'm like brainstorming like, okay, how do I categorize all this? Because that's how I think. I start from the top and move downward. Start breaking it down to we get to point A, right? So I finally figured it out. I'm doing the research. I'm on different websites. Like, okay, who does this person like? Okay, in regards to trends and what people are gravitating towards. Like, okay, I'm looking for trends that not only resonate with me but also resonate with society, what I'm saying? And in this case, Black society, the Black community. So, because you don't want to just talk about something that you might think is dope, but it's not really hitting, out there in the world. So that's something I had to do, and I'll talk about that, some other time when I talk about I Love Sex as a whole. But So I started to compartmentalize everything. Like, okay, it broke down to, black, aspiring black leaders. Like I just named, Dr. Delbert Blair, Dr. Phil Valentine, Red Pill, Blue Pill, Dr. Umar Johnson, Tariq Nasheed. That represents black leadership and progressing us. Giving us new ways to think. Giving us substance. Then it was movements, like, as I mentioned before, hip hop. That's a movement, because I didn't want to just talk about, like, hip hop be the focus. I was like, okay, I want to go past hip hop. There's other movements that I want to talk about as well. So, but hip hop gave me that idea to come up with the movement aspect. So it's like, okay, what other black movements are out there that I want to speak about? Like, I could say, Black Lives Matter is a movement, that's gaining a lot of traction and got mainstream appeal that people know about. So, but I'm not gonna, me personally, I'm not gonna speak about, the Black Lives Matter movement, and that's not a diss or anything like that. And I'll explain that in a minute. But so we have movements, and then we have black businesses. So those three components: black businesses, black movements, and black leadership. With businesses, I hear that constantly. We always talking about, we need to buy black, we need to support black businesses, and I've been around those talks for the longest. You're talking about 10 years. When I was in Atlanta, I was involved with different groups that were about that. Like, we gotta, keep the money in the community. We need to buy black and support our black brothers and sisters that, have businesses, opposed to, supporting these large corporations. So black businesses, why not? What black businesses are out there that I can support, not only financially, but also give them, acknowledge them on my platform? So we have, black leaders, black movements, and black businesses. Now, to answer, to go back and talk about the whole Black Lives Matter, black excellence, I wanted to speak about something that countered, the atmosphere, that we see on the news and, mainstream media, just period, from music to television to movies, the misrepresentation of, the black image, So my thing is, my understanding of, the mind, being a student of the mind for, 10 plus years, I understand the power of images and the power of, positive speech, speaking positive, thinking positive, and having positive images to go with that. And then, as well as positive actions. So instead of speaking about, racism, police brutality, why, like the gods of Egypt has an all-white cast, or why Nigeria wasn't spoken about, when the bombings happened, or the massacre that happened in France. You know what I'm saying? Like, instead of continuously perpetuating the cycle of, feeding into that energy, that type of energy, and I'm not saying there's a positive or a negative, instead of feeding in that energy, because a lot of people are speaking about that. I'm on Facebook, I see it all the time. The same back and forth. Someone gets shot in the street, whether it be a brother or a sister, by quote unquote authority, we outraged, and we get emotionally attached and physically attached to the situations. So again, me being a student of the mind and understanding the workings of the mind, I'm like, okay, I want to bring images that represent what we're supposedly striving for. We need black empowerment. We need, liberation. We need, those positive images to carry us through. So that's what I know my position is, given my understanding of the mind and just who I am as a person. So that's my position. You have the foot soldiers in the streets, that's ready to get busy. You have, the people that know the inner workings of legislation, and know how to get laws passed and things like that. You have people that understand the law and, know how to, fight in that regards. You have people like myself who bring you the positive images. I pretty much give you I counter what you see on the day to day, day in and day out. I'm giving you that other side, as well as giving you resources to begin to build us up and support our own, So that's why I felt, Black excellence was something that needed to be represented with I Love Cex, because, like I said, not only because I'm black, and it's not just black America, but also Africa. We see, the misrepresentation of Africa, whether it be Africa being smaller than what it really is on, looking at the world map, to, just images of the poverty and, age-stricken, war-torn, Africa. It's like Africa is beautiful. The people are beautiful. Whether it be physically, mentally, spiritually, Africa is beautiful. So I'm not just talking about black America. I'm talking about black and Africa. Black and African. Black America and Africa. When I talk about black excellence. So this is not just limited to, over here in America. So, I talk about, like I said, up and coming leaders overseas, just all around, brothers and sisters. So that's what black excellence represents to me, and why I wanted to speak about it with I Love Cex, because I'm not only because I'm black, of course, I'm black, but, there's more to the story than what we see on television, and what we hear in our perception that we've been fed for so long. We're not slaves, we're not maids, we're not submissive, we're not savages in the streets, we're not thugs, we're not lazy, we're not dumb, we didn't come from apes. We are much more than that. We chose to be here, and we chose to be black, on the physical level. So there's a reason why we chose, us as blacks and Africans, we chose to be who we are for a reason, and we need to connect back to the source and begin to build upward. And like I said, I Love Cex and black excellence is a vehicle or a resource for you to grab onto and propel yourself and move yourself forward. So, that's what black excellence is about. That's the reason why I chose to run with black excellence, and I'm going to represent that to the fullest.